Hi, everybody. Welcome to ZTV Live. I'm Susan Mulligan Fleischman, and I'm so glad you're here today. Today is it's Tuesday, November 17th, 2020. We are happy to have Ralph Peluso back with Reading, Writing, and Ralph tonight, and Ralph is thrilled to welcome back his guest, Ceil Warren, with her new book, Pushing Back the Storm. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Ralph.
Hi, Susan. How are you tonight? I'm doing great. Just, facing the weather getting a little chillier and the days getting a little shorter, but, doing fine.
Sorry, I'm there. My sound should be better. I have a new computer, and I am finding that the settings are a little bit wonky. So, but yes, and I noticed that today, Ralph. All of a sudden, it seemed to get dark so much earlier, and I was like, "Boy, we're in." And by all accounts, it's going to be a cold, dark winter. So,
Yeah, it seems that way. And I guess wonky is a technical term for you don't know how to do it yet.
well, I've been doing
So,
it for a while. It's a new computer, so.
so yes, Ceil Warren is back with us. She was on very early when we first launched the show, if you remember. And she is a long-time friend of mine. And she's finished her second novel, and it's been published, and it's a continuation of the little hamlet of Stone's End and the characters that live there. So let's bring Ceil on.
Absolutely. Hi, Ceil.
Hi, Ralph. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Ceil. But I want you to put up that picture I sent you. Carvel, 1956 or thereabouts. That was the opening day. Neither Ceil nor I were there that day, but we spent lots of time at that Carvel with a whole bunch of friends as we were growing up.
That's great.
So if our friends are watching from the Bronx, you'll be seeing the Carvel on Tremont and Phillip Avenue. So we had a lot of great times there. And I'm sure some of these stories and these characters draw from those experiences.
So. They do, absolutely. And I'm sorry, but my construction folks are here, so I'm sorry. I'm going to mask.
Right. Good.
Okay. They're right over there, so
we can hear you just fine. So okay. Ceil, welcome back. And so before we get into pushing back the storm, update the viewers on what's going on with your first book, because you have some exciting news to share about that.
Oh, it's so much fun, Ralph. A friend of mine, Wally, I've known her a long time, not as long as you actually, but she lives up in New Hampshire and she's involved in a theater group, and she's producing my first book into a play. And so I was busy writing the manuscript, and I'll tell you a quick fun side story is that, so Turning Back the Sun is about a village and there's a lot of characters in it. So I said to her, okay, how many characters are going to be fitting on the stage? She goes, only 6. I said, 6? So, okay, I'll have to cut characters out then. So we have a Zoom call, and I was explaining to her, bringing her up to date. I said, all right, so I cut Martin out. And she goes, oh, you can't cut Martin out. Said, okay, well, all right, I'll put Martin back in. I said, okay, I cut Walter out. No, you can't cut Walter out. I picture him singing opera, in the background. And so, all these characters that made their way out sort of made their way back in. But we somehow made it fit. But it's going to be in April. COVID needs to cooperate in the New London area. And here's a fun fact about New London, Lake Sunapee. It's where Steven Tyler lives.
Yes.
So I'm going to invite him.
You should. He might show up.
I love Steven Tyler. He's the best rock and roll scream in the business.
Yeah, he's a character. And well, that's wonderful news about that. And as we get through this, one of the folks here started a little theater group for our community. So, and we've got enough people here in the group that fit the profile of all those characters. So maybe you can share it and we can put it on here.
Well, wouldn't that be fun?
That would be
It's
great.
already been written.
Yes, it would be fun. So let's talk about pushing back the storm. So tell us how you came up with that title, and how you came up with the enhancements to the characters and the further maturation of the characters and their relationship.
Well, book one was the first of the series, and so you're trying to create a whole new world. And I created Stone's End, and you're creating the characters and so forth. And it just took the form of a very charming second chance love story with a tender ending. And so now that they were established going on with the series, so the second book, Pushing Back the Storm, I wanted to kick it up a notch. And it probably is more, Ralph, a product of me being on lockdown for 9 months. So there is a lot. It's very fast paced. It sort of takes off like you're being shot out of a cannon. And there are a lot of things going on, and but stormy stuff. Stuff that people have to deal with to get to the happy ending. And so the original title was Is Love Unbreakable? I wanted to keep it in with the theme of a love story.
Right.
As stormy as as a love story, a romance hits the stormy times. And so Is Love Unbreakable? I got so much pushback on that title. And I dug in. I said, no, I like this title, until it came time to actually fit it on a book cover. That word unbreakable does not sit well. So it wasn't until a friend of mine said to me, what do I think about when I hear that title? Like a self-help book. I said, oh, for God's sakes. So I had to change it. So again, a lot of intriguing, stormy stuff happening, and I came up with Pushing Back the Storm.
Yeah, well, it is fast paced. It is extremely fast paced, and there's lots of twists. There's lots of dark stuff, and there's a lot of light stuff. And so there's so much going on in that book with the characters and their relationships. I sort of, when I read it, I said, boy, this is kind of a cross between Peyton Place and Hell Hath No Fury Like a Woman. And so it's got all of these elements. So, and when you and I talked, there's several different places you drew from. I think the schoolyards growing up had to be one of them, because you could see the characters in there. It's who's with this one, who's with that one. And then why don't you talk about, where you draw all those inspirations, particularly the ones that came from your business life?
Well, it's interesting. I've always been drawn to the quirkier, more humorous side of life and people. And you and I actually had a conversation recently about this, that there's really quirky and fun stuff all around us if you just look. And I've been doing that all my life. So when I finally sat down to a writing career, I had a treasure trove to draw from. So, you're right, certainly in the business life, all the wonderful people you meet. But the character of Martin was actually born from knowing a young man who used to work in the mailroom. And he was just this quirky guy that had, he was a dreamer, and he was always talking about these fantastical trips he was going to take and these adventures he was going to have, and he never did anything. He never went anywhere. But he was delightful, and his enthusiasm was contagious. And so as I wrote Martin's character, I remembered him. And schoolyards, oh my gosh, schoolyards, a lot of drama in the schoolyards. A lot. There just was always something going on, and the gossip was fierce. But as I look at Hangouts, when you think of it, Ralph, you and I have known each other since teenagers.
Yeah.
We hung out in the parking lot of Carvel, and it was a very large group that we hung out with, but we were all such good friends. And you know something, none of us ever fought.
No.
I don't remember fights going on, and it was a time-tested friendships that we still all get together once a year, you know, and you know, come in from out of state and so forth. So, you know, all things like that, just great friendships, wonderful characters. You know, a schoolyard is sort of a microcosm of a small village, you know, and how it. So yeah, you do. I drew a lot from all three.
Yeah, I could see some of the circumstances and some of the relationships in those characters evolving out of those schoolyard scenes. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
and some of the dialogue that went on between them that I just said, "Oh my gosh, I know that right there." So it was interesting to read, but also in small towns, as you know, and which really serves as the backbone for the book. Um, with here, we'll ask our first trivia question. So we've got three trivia questions tonight, and again, we'll take the first person with the right answer will win an autographed copy of Pushing Back the Storm, and we'll announce the first winner on the second and third, but we won't give a repeat book. So keep your answers coming in until we have a new winner with each of the three questions. So the first question is, in the movie Four Weddings and a Funeral, what did Carrie tell Charles was the number of relationships that were needed to be had to have a good run of things? Meaning that how many relationships should you have before you settle down? So the first person to come in with that answer will win an autographed copy.
I know the answer.
I know you know the answer. We don't want you to say it though.
I'll take a shot.
we had a guest say it one time. So anyway, the reason I and why we have some of the questions we do, because we're focusing on relationships and the characters and their relationships in the book too. So let's start with the characters. Of course, there's Arthur. So how did he change, or did he change from book one to book two?
Arthur is he's just this quiet little man who owns the print shop. Oh, I think I'm echoing. Am I? A quiet little man who owns the print shop, and he had a doomed love affair in his youth. He doesn't revisit love until 40 years later. He's 62 years old, and he finally gets with the love of his life, and he blows it. It was just, I do have friends who just are very unlucky in love. They keep trying and they keep blowing it up, you know. So Arthur was kind of came to creation from that scenario.
Yeah, I wanted to smack him at one point, but couldn't quite do it. But he finds his way at the end, and then we have Constance, who is the love of Arthur's life through most of his life. So I saw some change in her, but how have you see her develop?
Well, Constance, as you know, has a lot of tragedy in her life with her husband and her son, and so you know it's left her a little skittish about taking chances. And so she gets in a situation where she thinks she's going to lose Arthur to, you know, some other woman, and she says, you know, she tries to work with it, and you know, she has a hard time with that. But Constance, I used to work with a woman from Great Britain, and she was just the gentlest soul who helped everyone, and I was inspired by her too in the creation of Constance's character. So Constance sort of comes into her own. She's not afraid to try again in love, but she actually knows who she is and she knows her tolerances. And when she hits her tolerances, you know, she will say, I'm out of here.
Yeah, she threw up her hands there for a bit, but I guess that happens when you're looking at defeat, I guess, in her eyes. But I liked her character. Do we have a winner on that first question yet?
No, we do not. We had one guess. Um, and I wanted no, but it was the incorrect guess. The guess was 25.
Nope. Okay, we'll keep going.
Okay.
And then another interesting character who I was surprised at, and there were some prizes, and we won't give them away because I think the readers will enjoy some of the surprises with her characters, is
Birdie, Birdie, Birdie's story takes off, and I have to tell you, I know, and what inspired me with doing a whole segment like that on Birdie is I know this older gentleman, and he's a wonder. He's been in my life for many years, and he's this wonderful, modest man, and he's just always still so engaged in life, and he's wonderful. But he's very ordinary. I found out something about him that was jaw-dropping. I mean, from his past. I mean, Ralph, you could write a book on what I found out, and you would never know that this little older gentleman has this extraordinary thing in his life. So you look around and you draw from that. You think, who else, as we all live these wonderful little mundane lives, like, who has what in their past. So Birdie has quite a lot in her past, yeah. And it starts spilling out.
Yeah, it's spilling out. Some of it's fun. It's kind of interesting.
Now, Birdie's story in Paris, her tragic story, that's a real story.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, I didn't know it was a real story, but yeah.
A friend of mine who she has since passed, but that's her story. It wasn't in Paris, but it had the same tragic ending, so.
No. But yeah, she's quite a character. And then, of course, the character who kind of changes and kind of goes in circles, Anna Felicia.
Anna Felicia was she famous opera star. She has to put on a performance and maintain an image her whole life. And it's this very calm, cool image, success and so forth. But behind the scenes, her life is a mess. And I explain why it's a mess. That she really, her father was not a nice man. Her husband was not a nice man. She was in a real competitive industry, and she learns to be devious. And so Anna Felicia changes. And who Arthur thinks she is certainly not. Of course, the villagers in Stone's End, they can see through anything. And they know she's up to no good.
Yeah. It
takes Arthur a while to figure out Anna Felicia, but she's kind of a tragic character that I wanted to turn back toward the end. So book 3, she will have a full turn.
Good. Do we have a guess yet?
No, we had one other guess. Mark Mathis made a funny comment just now. He said, Anna Felicia can be a real bitch.
Okay, at least. Yeah, Anna Felicia could be. But
everybody, and as for the guesses, though, people think you're all too low so far. You're a little too low.
I know it. I know the answer.
We'll give them another couple of minutes, right, Ralph?
I remember I saw that movie when it first came out, and I still remember the number to this day. So it's kind of like
that scene was iconic.
It was. Well, let's say with the characters. Then we have. I'm going to throw in the one that we probably all disliked from the beginning, Claude.
Claude is such a misery. He's sort of like one of those ones that you think of as like a used car salesman, just smarmy but he's very charismatic, and he could very easily win your heart. Very talented man, but again, Stone Ender people. The people of Stone's End, they know, that they're just down to earth people, and they could just, see right through his baloney. So, they're on guard.
Yeah. Well, he definitely has a dark side, and and pure evil when you come right down to it. So, and then we have Martin. Well, you already talked about Martin earlier,
Yeah, I love Martin.
um, but he, as you said, was a dreamer. And what are you going to do with him in book 3?
Book 3 is going to be all about the wedding. And Constance's niece comes in from England, and she's going to give Martin a run for his money.
Wow. Okay, good man. Look forward to that one. And then, of course, George.
George, it was a play off of Harvey with Jimmy Stewart. And he had the puka, and it was the 7-foot rabbit. And I just thought it was just a fun little whimsical thing to put in. But I've since found out that my friend, a childhood friend, she said, I said, I know that was really quirky. She goes, nah, it's not that quirky. My grandfather used to talk to his car all the time. I said, really? She goes, oh, no, really. He used to have like long conversations with his car, and we all just accepted it. And then a cousin of mine said that he had a George, and his name was George in Vietnam.
Oh, wow. Wow.
He said he just was convinced that he kept him safe.
Good. So we have a winner on the first question. Yay.
Yes, we have a winner, and Michelle D'Amato, who is a strong contender on these contests, and I think she held back as long as possible. But I'm glad that you weighed in with the correct answer, 33. So congratulations,
33.
Michelle.
Congratulations, Michelle. Thank you. So we'll ask the second question because it took us a while to get a winner on that one. This is going to be we're going to give everybody's going to get one guess, but let's have as many guesses as possible. But everyone submits one guess, and the question is, how many motion pictures has the Empire State Building been in where it's been in a featured scene? So not just a flyby of the New York City skyline, where it's actually been in a featured scene, like King Kong and movies like that. So how many motion pictures has the Empire State Building been in a featured scene? So in about 5 minutes, we'll check back, and whoever is closest to the right number, and as we have it, will be the winner. So we'll check back in 5 minutes. So Ceil, Rosie or Rosalita, again, she's a character that had some interesting changes in this one. Talk about her a little bit.
She actually was not in book 1, and her character really was just developed for just some way for the village to get rid of Anna Felicia. And so, I did just realizing that some people ordinary people have extraordinary hidden pasts. And apparently everybody in this village knows about her past, and no one really had a problem with it. Oh, she's fine. Rosie's fine, But she actually has a real big stigma to her name that wreaks havoc on Anna Felicia's enterprise. So it was just fun developing her. I worked with a woman who had her type personality, just very vivacious, and she used to live in Spanish Harlem, and we used to have some really great parties up there.
Right. Oh, yeah, she kind of was the wild card in this one, but a very good role, and again, well thought out. Now, I want to talk about some of the things that hit home with the readers. For example, hidden secrets, and we touched on this earlier. It seems like no matter what family, what people, what couples, and as you said it earlier, we see one thing, but then there's always the churning waters underneath.
Yes.
So talk about the hidden secrets here and how they fit into the plot.
Well, it's hard to do that without giving plots away.
I know it's going to be tricky, but yeah.
But I have to say that I did get feedback from more than a few readers that said, "Boy, when I thought I knew a character, and then you just changed it all up. I mean, it was shocking, what their past was." So people were drawn to that, and found it intriguing, and I did, again, just from that one guy that I know that has a jaw-dropping hidden secret in his past. I was able to bring some of these out, but people so far I'm getting very positive feedback in that area.
Well, yeah, it is because you have hidden secrets in relationships, as you know, those come out in the book. You have personal hidden secrets that come out in the book with these characters. You've got last minute twists that were secrets that sort of come out in the book. So you've got all these little nuggets along the way, almost like breadcrumbs, that gets underneath the surface, and they pop up at like the most opportune times.
Well, I'll say one just to throw some intrigue out there. So Birdie, which everybody knows, she's kind of unfiltered and so forth. So you find out she's a freedom rider. You find out she lived in Paris. You find out she's a famous artist. There's a nude painting, $1 million painting of hers that gets stolen, an art theft in Stone's End, which is just jaw-dropping for everybody there. So people so far I've been getting really good feedback on, like, oh my gosh. I have some people calling me up there at one point in the book. I can't believe what's just happening in there. They put the phone back on and like go back to reading. So.
Well, when I read that about Birdie, I envisioned this big Caravaggio type painting with her spread on it. It's kind of like, oh my gosh.
I didn't describe it, so very interesting.
I know, so it worked. It's pretty funny. And then the other thing that I think touches people is when you get to an emotional point. Like, I thought that Constance's goodbye letter was kind of very interesting. She chose to say goodbye rather than face people in person through a letter. Why did you go down that path with her?
She really didn't want to leave. On many levels, it was a beloved home. She loved being there. She was beloved in the community. She loved her bookshop. She loved Arthur. She really did not want to leave, and it was just too painful. It was just too painful to just say goodbye, because that sort of just really severs the bond when you do it face to face. And she just took an easier way out with giving the caveat, "I promise I'll come back for a visit," but. She literally, it was too painful on so many levels for her to do that face to face.
Wow. Yeah, I thought that was very well done, the letter. Okay, the 5 minutes is up. The correct answer is 250. So who is the winner?
And Michelle D'Amato guessed correct answer, and the next closest one is the one that wins, and that's Mark Mathis.
Oh, wow, okay.
And he guessed 98. We also had good guesses from Nancy Parlett and Mary Wadlin. So we do love your interaction, viewers. Thank you so much for chiming in. Mark Mathis had one more comment that said, these characters have a truckload of hidden baggage.
They do. Mark must have read the book.
Yeah. Mark, keep those comments coming. We love them.
Okay. The last question is going to be again another movie that hits home with here, and one of the things that you find out about this that Ceil writes about is the coming together of a community in the end. So the next trivia question is about It's a Wonderful Life, which is as we know, if you watch that, you know how the community comes together to support the main character at the end. So the question is, in It's a Wonderful Life, what is the name of the drugstore owner that gave the poison to the customer? and slapped George in the ear and wrecked his eardrum. So anyway, now this one, the two previous winners aren't eligible. If they get the right answer, we will announce them. But the third person, or the first person with the correct answer, that's not Mark or Michelle, will win. So let's talk about that community coming together, because that is the spirit that sits inside of a lot of small communities in the country and in the world, for that matter. So talk about how that came about at the end here with pushing back.
It's kind of interesting. So yes, small communities. They know each other's business, so they know everything that's going on, and especially if there's a beloved member going through a bad time, the poor beloved member, whether they want help or not, they're going to get it.
Yeah.
Arthur keeps getting himself in trouble in love, and you have this whole group of people frantically working behind the scenes, trying to solve his problem, and he really doesn't want their help, but they're there for him, which is the underlying story. And we all get through life with a little help from our friends, and sometimes it's a lot of help from our friends, and it's, something you're blessed. You're blessed if you have that, because I imagine not everybody does.
Yeah. Well, you can see the relationships being stressed, but they were able to still come back together and work as a group.
This thing is thieves in Stone's End. Oh yeah, there's no breaking these people apart, and they've been together for so many years, and they take care of their own.
Yes. And they got through love and heartbreak and deceit and manipulation. There's some jealousy thrown in, but yet at the end they all just coalesced to make sure that one of their own was taken care of. So it's very heartwarming. And so let's talk about some of the literary comparisons between Pushing Back the Storm and. So we mentioned three of them already. It's a Wonderful Life, Four Weddings and a Funeral, and the Fair. Oh no, we didn't mention that one. But the one that sticks out to me because of the ending, and I mentioned this to you, is An Affair to Remember.
Yeah.
Right. Were you thinking about that as you wrote the final, the final scenes?
I absolutely was. It is my favorite romantic movie, and you just think of a love that's meant to be, and it could span decades. It could span many problems. People coming between you, and if it's meant to be, you are going to be together. So it's a frantic scene at the end of the book of a last ditch effort for Constance and Arthur to get together. And yes, I was definitely thinking of An Affair to Remember, because again, it's just a love that's meant to be.
Yeah, and then that was very, that's exactly, what was going through mine as I was reading that. I was going, oh man, this is just like Affair to Remember or Sleepless in Seattle, which was done. And then in one that I talked about, and I'll tell you why I think it's relative. It's because of all the manipulation, the hidden secrets, the hidden motives, and Pushing Back is charade. And I like Hitchcock movies. I've always been a fan of Hitchcock. And there you've got a woman who's, apparently being taken advantage of by three complete strangers to get all this money or stamps or whatever it is. I can't remember exactly. But and here you've got a very similar thing. You've got one woman and her sidekick man manipulating a community for her end. So what were your thoughts on that?
And Charade's a good one, Ralph. The just because a lot of people, they portray themselves one way and then they really are another way. Very deceptive, very devious, and manipulating. Some people will see through them, some people won't. Um, but I also wanted to add. Now, Claude was just evil. He was
Yes, Claude.
just an odious man. You wanted to smack his face raw, right? But in Anna Felicia, I wanted to bring out and you tell me if I did, what good people will do when they're desperate, that they can be pushed to do not nice things.
Yes.
And, using people, using friends, trying, really pushing, your interest in, past decency and so forth. So I wanted to add that twist of, just what good people who are desperate, what they will be pushed to do.
It's kind of interesting. I agree with you that, desperation causes good people to do desperate things. But I found myself not liking her. I thought that she had enough wealth and assets that she didn't need to go through that. And that, she was doing that for her own self-interest, regardless of how it affected anybody else. And so, even though she may have been desperate, I think the desperation was self-imposed. Right?
I'd agree. And a friend of mine who had read the book said too. She said, "Oh, I just hated her," And then she said, and something. She seemed sweet in book one, and you were hopeful, and the affair she had, with Arthur when they were youthful. And she said, "Oh my God, she just hated her."
Yeah, and plus the way she was manipulating Arthur, he was kind of weak in those moments, and and she just abused him. So, anyway, do we have a winner on the last one yet?
We do. We had first, Michelle D'Amato was the first one with the answer, Mr. Gower, and Mary Wadlin also guessed Mr. Gower. And those two came in very close. So Mary Wadlin, congratulations, Mary. You won a copy of the book. Thank you.
Great. Congratulations, Mary. And Michelle and Mark.
Mark, please send your address, your physical address for mailing. Please send it in a private message to the Zebras Facebook page, and we'll get a copy of the book out to you. And thank you so much.
That's okay. Mark happens to be my editor. I know how to reach him.
All right. That's good. So that's sort of, we talked about It's a Wonderful Life in Small Town, 4 weddings and a funeral. And again, what that has to do is with the dynamics of friends as their relationships change, right?
That's better. I love that movie. And what always struck me in that movie was just how much they supported one another. They had this core group of friends. It wasn't huge, but through thick and thin, they always had such a tender, caring for one another and made sure each of them were all right. And that always touched me about that movie. So I tried to bring that into. I mean, I know that the characters in Stones and they're zany and they're quirky. But I really try to bring that out where they stop at nothing to take care of one another.
So when will we see the last of the trilogy?
I'm starting to carve it out in my head. It's going to be a wedding that gets away from Arthur and Constance because Stone's End is who they are, and they absolutely insist on being involved. So a lot of fun things. So, but I'll give you one hint. There'll be more than one wedding.
Well, that's good to know. It's it was a terrific, fast-moving book. I think a lot of folks will enjoy it, it'll take you on a ride through a small town and what it means to live inside of a small community. And if you don't have it, I'd suggest you either download it or get yourself a copy and read it. And it's fun. It is actually a fun book. And 2 weeks, we have on Ed Moser, who wrote about the White House's unruly neighborhood, and it's some great stories about the goings on in and around Lafayette Square and in the area of the White House. And it'll be another enjoyable night, and we'll delve into the stories from murder to mayhem. So it'll be a very interesting show. Ceil, thanks once again for coming on. And look forward to when the next one comes out. We'll get you back, and we'll get everybody interested. And Janet wants you to send her a copy of the book signed.
Oh, I would love to. I would love to. Say hi to Janet for me. And Ralph, thank you. This was just so much fun. And Susan, you're wonderful. Thank you.
Oh,
Great.
thank you.
Great.
Well, that's terrific. Thank you, Ralph. Ceil, what a pleasure it was. And thanks to all the viewers who chimed in with our guesses with Ralph's fabulous trivia game that we all really enjoy so much. So thank you. And Mark Mathis had one final comment. He said, just send me book 3. So, yeah. So, thank you everybody for chiming in. And Ralph, we'll see you in 2 weeks. And Ceil, we will see you when book 3 comes out. We look forward to that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Take care. Okay, that will do it for tonight's episode of ZTV Live. Thank you so much for watching. Please tune in tomorrow night. It's Wellness Wednesday with Dr. Lauren Fisher, and her guest is Sonia Palmieri. She is a nurse practitioner, and she'll be talking about some integrative medicines as well as a vampire facial. So definitely tune in to see what that's all about. Thursday night is the Virginia Amos Show, and Virginia welcomes 2 board members from Agenda Alexandria, Frank Fannin and Rod Kruko. So please join in. They're going to be talking about how business has been surviving in Alexandria, so something that I think we all have a keen interest in. And until then, please remember to be kind and to be the good news in someone's life.